Hello. Have you ever felt like you're carrying the absolute weight of the world on your shoulders? I think we have all felt that from time to time, but have you really felt it to the point where it just feels like it's getting heavier and heavier and you just can't seem to understand why it just doesn't seem to get any lighter? And actually, not to be doom and gloom, but it actually can be heavier and deeper than we all might even think. So I want to welcome you to the Your Life Your Way show. My guest today is going to talk to us about that and more. Dr. Tara Perry, excuse me. I just had an allergy attack, so my words might not be flowing smoothly yet. Dr. Tara Perry is a specialist in root trauma transformation and is also a subconscious mind expert. And boy, I'm really looking forward to hearing her share a lot about that with us. She has been featured in Esquire, Fox News, Lifetime Television for Women, and more. She has 25 years experience of successfully treating celebrities, Olympic athletes, first responders, doctors, parents, and what goes to my heart, children. And Dr. Tara's passion is working with people to resolve that trauma, that heavy weight that they're carrying, and heal their deepest sympathy, deepest suffering. I'm glad she's going to be doing most of the talking today. Dr. Tara, thank you so much for being here. I'm really anxious to hear your expertise, your advice, anything you can offer us. But can you begin first by telling us more about you personally? Any of us who are in the journey of helping others find their way, we've been through something to bring us to why we're doing this service.
It's so funny. I just had a dear friend leave this morning that was here yesterday evening and part of this morning. And looking back, it's just so crazy. I don't feel like the same person I was 20 years ago. And by letting go of those old patterns and those old weights that one is carrying around, life is just so much lighter. It's freer. There's wonderful synchronicities that happen. But boy, navigating that, 90 to 95% of our brain is subconscious. And by definition, that's below our level of consciousness. So trying to solve a problem with the remaining 5 to 10% is really, I have found for a lot of people futile. I work with so many people that have told me they've been in therapy for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And in just a few sessions, they can get so much more accomplished by going to the root of the problem in the subconscious mind and reprogramming it that way. But you got to speak the language of the subconscious mind because it doesn't think in a linear fashion. So for 23 years, I was in Southern California and Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, Belmont Shore, doing acupuncture and nutritional medicine. I taught at UCLA. And then one day this woman came in who had had a horrible background with trauma, and she was raving about what she was doing. And when I found out it was based in hypnotherapy, I said, I want to meet your person and trade with them because I wanted to have a taste of what it was like. And I realized that this was really different. I had already been to two top hypnotherapists in Los Angeles, and they were wonderful people. They helped people a lot, but they were really relaxing people and talking to the conscious mind. And by bypassing the conscious mind altogether, one I find can get much deeper, faster results. And I just had the craziest things get better quickly, such as people who had become allergic to everything but 5 foods, people who had all kinds of PTSD from different situations. One gal was attacked by a Rottweiler. She went through 6 jaw surgeries. She was living in pain and fear of losing more teeth. Developed a choking disorder. Every time she ate, she was at risk of going to the hospital. And she had 3 young children at the time. Can you even imagine a mom
No,
with
I
3 young
can't.
kids? So her husband contacted me and said, hey, can you help her? And in the first session, she knew this was her path to being free of this problem. And after 3 sessions, no more surgeries, no more teeth lost, no more trips to the ER. And that's getting to be quite consistent results. I had one fellow who came in who had 40 years of back pain from breaking his spine in a motorcycle accident. And he was an advanced meditator. And he was all excited when he found out I was an acupuncturist. And I said, you've done acupuncture, you've done chiropractic. Why don't we go to what I call Command Central, which is your subconscious mind, find out what's getting in the way of your healing. Because if you break your femur, which is the thickest bone in your body, that should be healed better than ever in 8 weeks. He said, great, sign me up. And in 2 sessions, he didn't have the pain anymore. And I said, are you surprised that your subconscious mind, and this is all recorded on my podcast, Next Level Healing. But I said, are you surprised that it happened so quickly? And he said, no, I know how powerful my subconscious mind is. I've had military veterans that had PTSD. They got 100 on their PTSD score, which is the maximum. They were still having panic attacks, still not able to focus. And after 2 sessions, they're going, it can't be this easy. And I'm like, well, yeah, it actually can be, because that's the power of the subconscious mind. Your conscious mind is only processing about 40 bits of information per second. Your subconscious mind is processing 40 million bits of information per second.
We have no way, the average person, all of us running around, I never did, had any clue as to the power that's really going on in there. And it's mind body. I mean, it's all of us has been there for every experience, and it's
Hmm.
just stored, and it just builds and builds and builds. So
Yeah.
tell us more about how you processed your own to be able to serve and help others, and then how it brought you to really find this passion.
Yeah, I didn't grow up with the most functional family, so I had issues like a lot of us do. I see everything in my work. There's massive sexual trauma, physical trauma, and my upbringing was nothing like that. My dad was narcissistic, probably somewhat bipolar, so there was always that "I'm not enough" thing going on.
Mhm.
So I'd conquer one mountain, and then 5 seconds later I'd be looking to conquer the next one, because it's like, okay, I still need to be better than I am.
It's
If you have that
exhausting.
"I'm not enough" feeling in there.
Mhm.
So I did lots of seminar, and then I'm also insanely curious. I'm the experience of being a conscious being is so fascinating to me,
Mhm.
and
Agree.
improving that experience for not only myself but others really just lights me up. I feel like I get to let people out of prison for a living, because again, tapping into that powerful subconscious mind. Acupuncture by itself is wonderful for dialing up the parasympathetic nervous system and dialing back the sympathetic nervous system. So a lot of people who are in fight or flight, the military loves it for PTSD. The VA discovered it quite some years ago, so acupuncture became very popular with veterans. But if you don't get the root of the problem, that message in the subconscious mind going, you're in danger, run, fight, hide, or please somebody. Those are the 4 F's: fight, flight,
Mhm.
freeze, or fawn. And a lot of people aren't aware that there's that fourth F. Those are all trauma responses. And once the subconscious mind can see, oh, I'm not an iPhone 4, I'm actually an iPhone 16, and that old technology is hurting me, it's damaging me, then it'll be willing to make that journey. But without that leverage, it's going to default to what's familiar, because the brain prefers a familiar hell to an unfamiliar heaven.
Yes, exactly. And bizarrely as that is, it's just amazing that we choose to stay and suffer, because sometimes we don't know there are answers, but to choose to stay in such pain and suffering because it's familiar blows my
I'd love
mind.
to offer some light on that, because there was a study done with rats, and I hate animal studies like poison, but they'd have electricity exposed to the rat, and then they'd expose the rat simultaneously to cherry blossoms. And of course, it didn't take very long where just the smell of cherry blossoms would make the rat's nervous system feel like it had an electrical shock. That's not a surprise. But what was a surprise was that the next generation and the next generation, it took 3 generations for that phenomena to go away. So if you can
That's
imagine
fast.
all the stuff that we're carrying around from when we were very tribal beings, it used to be that if your tribe rejected you, no matter how crazy the tribe is, how cruel, how whatever problematic, dysfunctional they are, if they rejected you, that meant you were banished to the jungle, the woods, a neighboring tribe. Your life would be bad in a hurry. So we're conditioned to be accepted by our environment. So when we're growing up, and a lot of these patterns get wired in between the ages of 2 and 10. We're highly impressionable. So if mom's an alcoholic, or drunk, or dad beats you regularly or isn't present, whatever the pathology is, the little brain has to make sense of it. It has to fit into that crazy pattern. So it's going to fire and wire those patterns, even though later on you're not subjected to that anymore. You're now a successful adult, you've achieved things, you have a safe home to live in, but your brain still thinks
Yeah.
that it's in that traumatic situation.
And your body too. And this is when you and I were talking briefly before we started, and I was mentioning about the nerve issue. And I know darn well this is more than just a physical.
Mm,
Yeah. going on. I know it is.
That's actually I do see that a lot. You can imagine a traumatized kid. What are they going to do? They're going to clench their teeth. So I work
Hmm.
with a lot of people with TMJ. They're going to tighten up their neck and shoulders. So I get a lot of. I mean, I've had so many people with headaches and migraines. I mean, I rarely. I can't. I can't recall a case of headaches and migraines that I haven't dialed back 50 to 100%. Um, so it's that tense response, and people that used to have to go to chiropractors all the time and acupuncturists, it just they don't need nearly that level of uh, attention if you get to the root of the program that's telling you you have to do
Exactly.
this.
I had recently had, I was mentioning to you going to my massage therapist for deep tissue to try to open this up a bit. But also, I mentioned I had surgery in August. I had full knee replacement, and the intensive fear, and it's a lot because I've had 3 previous surgeries over many years. So I have developed quite a fear around that leg. But in the process, I finally, first time ever, surrendered and let her really work the leg. And you talk about being lighter. I could feel leave, something leave, because I finally let myself just be and surrender and let her do the work. But it was like the energy of the work just pushed something out. And it has to be so similar to your clients that you're working with, your patients, that feeling of being light.
Mm,
It's hard to really describe. I mean, you use the word lighter, but it's really a hard feeling. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful feeling. It's
y-
amazing.
yeah, and it's your natural state. Like Joe Dispenza likes to say, it's the
I was
most
going to mention him.
familiar,
Yeah.
unfamiliar feeling. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you've been carrying around a backpack that you just didn't know was there.
Yeah. And I don't know what it was, but just that willingness. And I think that's the same with everybody coming to or going to, even if it's an acupuncture, wherever you happen to be going for help, you have to have that willingness to surrender, to really allow yourself to just allow,
Hmm.
surrender and allow.
Yeah, I work with people that have an 8, 9, or 10 need to change and an 8, 9, or 10 commitment to change because again, when that brain's stressed, it's just going to want to sit in front of the TV, watch a beer, and fall asleep and do the same old thing. So breakthroughs can happen instantaneously. Sometimes it's step by step by step, but the desire to leave the old state has to really be there.
Definitely. It's like anything, whether it be quitting smoking, drinking, or drugs, you have to want to. You have to really
100%.
want to. You have to reach. It's just too bad we have to reach that point of darkness to want to finally see the light and feel the light.
Yeah.
So how does someone say, okay, I'm ready?
Yeah. So on my website, I have a Let's Talk button. People can click that and get some clarity questions just to get really clear on what it is they want to shift and change and set up a time to talk with me. Because, my work is very customized. I want to make sure that people, have a good understanding of what I do, the kind of results other people have gotten, and whether or not they're a good fit. I love giving people resources. So I've got a whole page of reading on my website. Um, uh, I've had clients tell me over and over again they think I've read every book on the planet. That's not true, but I do have a really good arsenal. So when I'm working with somebody, I get a sense of okay, this building block would be amazing for them. It would really help catapult them to another level. So each person gets a really customized experience. The root of it is um, connecting with the feeling that they've don't want to have anymore. So I'll typically say, what are 3 feelings you don't want to feel anymore? The most common answers are, stressed out, anxious. Anxious would probably be number one.
Number one, yeah.
It could be anger. It could be I'm not enough. Unworthiness is a big one. Uh, um, Whatever the stress, grief. And then where do you feel that in your body? How big is it? What color is it? What temperature is it? How long has it been there? And so often I get the answer, it's been there my whole life. So even if it was a later traumatizing event, the original insult, the original firing and wiring, often comes. In fact, the military veterans that I've worked with, they almost always go back to somewhere in childhood. So once you fix that, it'll take care of all the stuff that happened after that, in my experience.
I love that you talk about customization because there are, in my opinion, just my personal opinion, there are too many things out there. Well, let's just take diet. There is no diet that is a one size fits all. There is an exercise that's a one size fits all. Every single body is different. The mind is different. We're all our own beautiful souls. And to have it
I
be
agree.
customized and rather than trying to put a round peg into a square hole, can you talk a little bit more about that and how it can help someone feel like they're being the only one focused on and it's not something you're putting into 150 or 200 other people?
So when people drop into that nice relaxed state, so we're in beta right now. Most people are familiar with the brainwave states. There are four of them: alpha, beta, delta, theta. Two of them are awake, two of them are asleep. We're in the highest one right now where we can multitask. We can be aware of all kinds of things going around us. When you drop into alpha, that's the relaxed meditative state. Now the brainwaves are starting to slow down. That's when you have better access to your subconscious mind. Light theta is also great. Uh, when you're in that relaxed state. I'm sorry, what was your question again?
Well, it's
I've
about
gone off into brainwave states.
that's okay, and it's very interesting. But asking about the customization as to how someone can feel like they're not being
Right. So
treated like
once
everyone
you've
else.
connected to the subconscious mind, it has kind of a different way of being, a different agenda. It doesn't think as linearly as the conscious mind. The conscious mind, tends to be a left brain activity.
Mhm.
It categorizes things. It pigeonholes things. It wants to make sense of things. I've interviewed Jill Bolte Taylor, who was the
Okay.
first TED Talk that ever went viral. She had the stroke of her left
Mhm.
hemisphere. Guess what our life experience is without our left hemisphere?
What?
We're blissed out. You're just, but you don't know where your body stops and the rest of the world starts. But
It still can be 100% enjoyable, though.
there's a huge problem. You can't function in 3D
No,
reality
there's
because
no balance.
you can't plan things. You can't, you know, document things. You can't do all the stuff that the left brain is so good for. But when you drop into that subconscious mind, similar to doing a plant medicine experience, if you're doing ayahuasca, people love that stuff because it allows them to bypass their conscious
Mhm.
mind. The problem I think a lot of people have with that, one of the problems is that you don't have a breadcrumb trail back to, how do I get back to that blissed out state? And not
Absolutely.
everybody does have a blissed out state. Some people don't have good experience. So if anybody is considering that, research it and make sure that you go to a good uh, place that you
Knows what
tick
they're
all the
doing.
boxes in terms of safety and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so when you're connecting with the subconscious mind will have information for you. It'll want you to do more of this, which is who you authentically truly are, and less of the stuff that is draining you, dragging you down. And some of those things are activities, some of them are thought processes. So there, and I like to make it really manageable and bite sized. So Tony Robbins has a wonderful saying, 3 to 5 to thrive. You really want to keep it bite sized and simple so that you can just make step by step improvement each and every day. I love Atomic Habits and James Clear. He breaks down the mathematics on just getting 1% better each and every day. If you get 1% better each and every day, you're not 365% better by the end of the year. You're 37 times better by the end of the year because it compounds on itself. So if we can have little bite-sized steps, and again, the subconscious mind is going to have much better ability to connect you to what needs to shift and change in your life so that you can up-level your experience in a way that's truly authentic to you.
And it's almost as if what you're saying is if you're trying to bring the subconscious gently without scaring the heck out of it so that it takes an even stronger hold. Am I
Yeah,
grasping that?
what's so crazy? The subconscious mind almost always wants to protect you.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what its goal is. So once you can talk to it and make sure that its needs are met, and then you can, I actually own the domain name brainaketo.com. In Aikido, you don't take a force and fight against it. You take the force and you use that force for the purpose that you become an aligned force with your subconscious mind. So it's not about trying. It's not about will. Take an example for cigarette smoking. There's some part of the brain in a cigarette smoker that believes that it's getting something of value from putting that thing in your mouth and taking a hit. Um, the subconscious mind is going, okay, I need it. It's reducing stress. It's it's performing some
Yeah.
function for me.
Mhm.
And it's a lie. It's like, and when you pull the curtain back and your subconscious mind can see that, like the Wizard of Oz,
I
the
was just
little old
thinking
man
that,
pulling the
yes.
levers.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
picture came to mind.
Once your subconscious mind can see, oh, it's a little old man behind the curtain trying to trick me, then it'll drop the old pattern and adopt a new pattern. So it's about becoming in alignment with the subconscious mind, not fighting it, not forcing it. That's what the discomfort experience that all of us have for so many years is that, we have some belief in our subconscious mind that isn't serving us, such as, I'm not good enough, I'm not
Mhm.
deserving, I'm not worthy, other people can get what they want but I can't. Whatever the belief is, that it's like a giant fish swimming around in the subconscious mind. So when you put all these little teeny fish in there saying, I am worthy, I make enough money, I'm wealthy, whatever, then the big fish just comes along and eats the little
Yep.
fish. So
Quite a
the
picture.
goal is to get that big fish, out of there, and upgrade its programming so that when you do plant these beautiful seeds in, they can actually have a chance of growing.
And I say similar with fear, because fear does come from your subconscious, is you can really develop and I look at it as, and I use the word, a new relationship with it. You actually can become friends and work together rather than having the fight or having it be always in control. And I think that what comes back to what you're talking about, being lighter and being able to release things. And yeah.
So I've found that most people, over 90%, can get 50 to 100% of their goal done in 3 sessions, and I do it over 90 days. And the reason I started my podcast is because I just really wanted people to know that this is possible. People that were suffering from daily panic attacks, who had been through 16 years of therapy, or more. um,
Are you doing anything just because mine was so low? And I think, oh my God, I can't even imagine how somebody who was actually in it. But for everybody that's been going through, for example, the hurricane or the fires,
mm,
we don't get them here, and we had it here. We were blessed. Home was fine. We were fine. Our community is not so blessed. There are many homes that have been very severely damaged. We did have a few lost souls. Um, but even just going through something like that, in the trauma that I felt, the fear that I felt, um, I can only imagine what someone else might be going through, something similar. That I would think would be someone that would be great to talk to someone like you to help relieve, because that trauma, it's in there. That nervous system now recognize your body owns it, your brain owns it, and it's something that really people, when they get to that point, I mean, some people are, so many are still healing physically with their homes and whatnot, but
yeah, I've worked. In fact, you're making recall something that I uh, actually don't usually mention on a podcast, but I have worked with women whose husbands have committed suicide,
mm,
and in some cases in front of them, and so that was big time trauma. And yes, it was very very helpful. It really helped them. I mean, it's not so much a panacea that it's like you are disassociated from having had that experience, but you do dial the pain and the suffering way way back to what's appropriate so that you can get on with your life.
are you gaining, because I find, the mind is a wild process, and it can take things and really, and of course, the more we repeat it over in ourselves, it just seems to get bigger and bigger sometimes. It's like that when you sit in that circle and you tell that secret and it goes around and it is different or it varies or it gets bigger. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, in my own experience, I think sometimes some things seem to be bigger than they actually are. So does it actually, like you said, there, it's not going to be panacea, but they can dial it back and feel better. But is it, I'm picturing what you're saying is making it a small size so that you can function, so that you can live, so that you can find joy and
Yeah, it
peace.
really
Is
is
that?
about bringing you into the present moment. And that's what all the great mystics and teachers have said. You want to be in this delicious present moment. Well, you can't be in the present moment if your subconscious mind is screaming at you that there's a problem and you're in danger. So
Or it
if
keeps rehashing what?
Yeah.
has
So if
happened.
you're like, for example, if there's a deer in the woods, you know, it's in parasympathetic, it's eating the grass, it's enjoying the day, and then all of a sudden it sees a wolf, and then boom, it's into sympathetic nervous system. You know, its eyes are dilated, it's the muscle, the blood's going out to the periphery, the heart's beating like crazy. It's looking for a safe spot, but as soon as it finds a safe spot, you know, it's able to dial its nervous system back into parasympathetic rather quickly and efficiently. Humans are a little weird because of our imaginations. We get stuck in, oh, that wolf is always there.
Yeah.
So I've got to constantly be defending myself, running, freezing, pleasing other people, second
Mhm.
guessing myself. You know, I worked with a realtor once and I said, what do you know, here's a magic wand. What do you want? She says, well, I'd like to not second guess myself in every single social situation. Well, as a realtor, that's kind of a problem. And I knew she had had a difficult childhood. So we just went back. And of course, you know, of course she was going to second guess herself all the time because when parents are abusive and, you know, you never feel safe, you're going to second guess yourself
That's a
on
big
into
word.
adulthood. Yeah. So we just rewired it. And I called her up a couple of months later and she was a little hard to get a hold of. And I was like, hey, you know, if you didn't listen to the tape, whatever, if it didn't do anything for you, whatever, just I need to know on a scale of 1 to 10, because that's how I am. My brain's scientific, you know, that problem that was a 10 and was interfering with your whole life, what is it now? And she thought a minute and she says, oh, it's gone. So yeah, I guess it was 100% of it.
So she was so busy out being social.
Well, people are so funny. It's like sometimes, you know, the biggest thorn in their side, once it's not there anymore, you have to remind them like, you know, they're onto something else. Their attention has already gone to the next thing.
That's beautiful. That's what you want, to be able to
Yeah.
have them just move forward. And I
And
hear
worthiness has, you know, it affects us on so many levels because if we
yeah.
go through our lives feeling unworthy, if we're exhausted at the end of the day, it taxes us on so many levels. So I worked with another gal who's a accomplished oral surgeon, and she never felt comfortable asking for money. And so we took care of that issue. We went back to childhood. Her sister is even more brilliant than she is. The sister's now a leading surgeon in the country. And so the father said something unkind to her when they were doing their homework one day, and she internalized that as I'm not enough. And she carried that with her, you know, into her career decades later. And so we just rewired it. And I called her up a couple of months later and I said, hey, how's it going? She says, oh my God, I go home with more energy. I'm a better wife. I'm a better mother. And I said, dollar wise, what's it worth to you to be able to ask for what you're worth? She says, I make an extra $10,000 a month.
That's wonderful. Good for her. That's wonderful. Do you find people, because you know, as you said, humans are weird. One of the similar statements that I've heard quite a few times is, well, this is just the way I am. This is just the way I am.
Yeah, and that's a belief. And
Yeah.
guess what? You know what's right in the middle of this? Right in the middle of the word belief is what?
B.
Lie.
Lie.
So it's a belief, and the good thing about a belief is you can just change it. So I just went to the Dr. Joe 10-day event in
I
Cancun
know.
a
How
short time
was it?
ago. Yeah. And he opened it up with this brilliant phrase, and I love sharing this because I'm really into quantum physics, and it's just true. The chances of you perceiving reality correctly are zero. So think about it. If the visual spectrum is, you know, a yard long, the visual, what we perceive is just a teensy little fraction of that. If the auditory spectrum is this long, we only perceive a teensy little fraction of that. And then within that, there's millions of bits of information. Our conscious mind can only perceive about 40 bits of information. So really, the chances of Byron Katie loves to say no two people have ever met.
I can understand and agree with that completely.
So when somebody comes in and they want somebody else to change, I say, I can't make them change, but I can certainly make your experience of what you're dealing with
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then what's interesting is when the person changes, often the other person will change as well. It's so crazy how reality mirrors.
And that's why I say it's feeling safe being yourself or your life your way, living a life on your terms. It doesn't mean that you're kicking those that you love to the curb or people that have been in your circle to the curb. It's finally stepping into who you are and feeling safe to speak your mind, do your thing, whatever it happens to be. But it also allows those that are closest to you to be better as well.
I love that you said that, because in the airline business, they say put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Yeah.
I work with lots of people, especially the people pleasers. They think that by bending themselves into a pretzel
Mhm.
and making themselves miserable, that they're actually helping other people. They're not.
No, they're enabling them. I call it enabling.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
healthy people want to be around healthy people. And, I would never want to ask you to do something and have you say yes and ruin your day and me not know I was ruining your day. It's healthy people have healthy boundaries. And it's like if you're doing something, there's just this energy force around you where you're maintaining your own health and well-being first so
Mhm.
that you can be there for other people.
And be the light for others.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. How does the process of someone carrying this heavy weight, this trauma and suffering, how does it affect how you age?
Oh, goodness.
Go ahead.
Well, imagine you're carrying around a 150-pound backpack all day, every day. And yeah, what are you going to look like after 5, 10, 15, 20 years? It's exhausting. You don't have energy to do, you don't have energy to heal. If your body is needing to recover from surgery or get over allergies, or, the guy that had broken his spine 40 years in a motorcycle accident, it's crazy that just by going into the subconscious mind, that problem could heal. But it's like once you dump old trauma, you now have resources available to heal. If you're in sympathetic, that means your digestive system is turned off, your hormonal system is turned off, your immune system is turned off. There is no energy available to that because your body is too busy responding to an emergency that isn't there.
And your body does want to be well. It wants to heal, but if you don't give it the space to do so,
Yeah. And so I've found that just the vast majority of time, I mean, if it's an acute injury and you just need an acupuncture visit or a chiropractor visit, but there's just too many people that are going to these people over and over and over and over again because of chronic tension.
yeah, agreed. So tell me, if someone wants to have a consultation with you, how do they go about doing that?
So you could go to consultterra.com or nashvillehealer.com. It'll take you to the same place. And there's a big let's talk button. And there's some clarity questions that you can answer and get clear about what it is you want to shift and change. And then set up a 30-minute time to talk to me. Because it is very customized, and I want everybody to be clear and feel like it's a good fit. And if there's another resource that can solve the problem better, I'm more than happy to offer it.
Is there any last minute points that you do want to make sure we don't miss offering?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Are there any last minute points or information that you want to give that we don't, that we want to make sure we give everything that's most important to you on
Yeah.
here today?
Well, there is the reading source on my website as well. So if anybody wants to peruse that and just kind of get a feel for a lot of the types of, I mean, there's just so many wonderful things out there. There's exercise techniques, there's breath techniques, there's
Mm.
yoga techniques, there's uh, strategy in terms of just how you look at your life. There's just so many powerful ways to heal. I like to say that we're standing on the shoulders of giants. And if anybody wants to just shoot me an email and say, "Hey, I was with you on your life your way," I'll send them a little unzip meditation. It's a way to just drop into a relaxed state and unzip from your experience of life and be in
Yes.
no space, nowhere, and no time, and just enjoy that deliciousness for about 10 minutes. I'll be happy to send that to them.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And I will have all of Dr. Tara's information in the show notes. Please, please, please don't tell yourself it's just how you are. Don't tell yourself that you're too busy. Don't let your subconscious keep you in that safe space that may not necessarily be the safest place for you. Reach out to Dr. Tara, have a conversation with her, and find out if it's a fit, if this is the place for you to be. And I have a feeling it just might be. So give yourself that opportunity to heal, feel lighter, and find more joy. Dr. Tara, thank you so much for being with us today. I cannot thank you enough. And I'm looking forward to having all the additional information so that I can share that with the listeners.
Thanks,
And
Kathleen.
I will have, as I said, Dr. Tara's information in the show notes. I will have mine in there as well. I wish you all many, many, many blessings, a whole lot of peace, and namaste. Be well.
Namaste.